Welcome to the Racing Nuggets podcast. I'm TJ Noodleman, joined by my co-host from the Midwest Racing Connection, Mr. Dan Plan. Good evening, Dan.
Good to be here. This one should be fun.
Yeah, you're from Minnesota. That's where the Midwest Racing Connection is based out of, and we've got a couple of championship Minnesota drivers joining us this week on the Racing Nuggets podcast. Please welcome Dillon Sellner and Brent Kane. Hi, guys.
Hi. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for joining. So you two have been racing together and separately, basically, for quite a long time. Tell us a little bit about how the two of you kind of ended up coming together as friends and racers.
Well, it probably starts at Oktoberfest.
Well, yeah, actually, it does start at Oktoberfest.
I think it was.
Were you single?
I don't remember.
Because I was single at the time, and we were chasing Becca around.
Oh, Becca Noodleman.
I think that might have been like my first Oktoberfest. I was probably 18 or 19.
Yep.
And I had a cowboy hat on, and so did Brent. We thought we were cowboys that night.
Yeah. But we started chasing Becca around and seeing who could kiss her first.
Brent won.
I won.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, Becca.
She's married with 2 kids now, so I don't think that's yeah. I mean, everybody's good times.
We were just
back
joking.
Then. Well, and I think I actually have some photos that year of you guys as well too. It seems.
Yeah. But that's where we really started our friendship at Oktoberfest that year. Yeah. But before that, at the races at Elko, just talking to each other at the races, and then he started racing Thunder cars, and the questions started coming, how to get faster and stuff like that, and now I'm asking him questions.
Right.
How many championships collectively between the two of you up there at Elko?
I have 4 at Elko, 3 at Raceway.
And I have 2 at Elko.
Nice. And how much older is one from the other?
I'm 42.
So he's 10 years older than me.
Wow.
You're only 32?
Okay. Yeah. Oh, man.
How's that feel? Let's let that sink in for a bit.
I don't know.
I mean, basically, Oktoberfest though is what started our whole friendship, and I think it was the year that Horn and you decided to see who could take the wall down the hardest.
Yeah.
And that was my first or second year in a Thunder car, and I remember, I think I made the race, but we made 2-3 laps and either got caught up in a wreck or pulled off or whatever. So I was watching from the quarter mile track, and I remember thinking, when Brent was leading, like, that's got to be the coolest feeling in the world to be leading at this race, this track, this atmosphere. And then you couldn't really see from where we were standing what had totally happened between those two. But I mean, I remember after the race, we were parked next to him, and they came down with his car in the trailer, and he goes to the cooler, grabs a beer, and just smiles at me. And I'm like, how are you not strangling that guy right now? And, well, it is what it is. It's Oktoberfest.
Yeah.
I need to drink beer with this guy this weekend. How can you be that relaxed after you just got wrecked a half or quarter lap from winning this thing? So that pretty much started our friendship, and we're competitors, and when you put the helmets on, but at the end of the day, we race with a ton of respect. And I mean, I think it was Oktoberfest a couple of years ago. We won 3 years ago, and Dan Plant has the video of it, and you see Brent on the front stretch cheering me on the whole race, and he's the first one down in victory lane with a handful of other people. That's just kind of how we've always raced together.
Yep. I have a lot of respect for this guy.
Right. Vice versa.
He's just been a really nice guy ever since he was, a kid. So, he's a heck of a wheel man. His right foot is an on and off switch. So it's either all the way on and all the way off, and he can drive around. I don't know how he does it without spinning the car out, but he's super awesome at driving. So he gained my respect.
Have the two of you ever had any issues where you might have bumped and one thought it was the other's fault and the other thought it was the other's fault, or has it always just been hard racing?
Usually my fault. So I'll be honest.
Nothing more than typical racing, I mean,
yeah.
I look back at this year, this was one of the most fun years I've ever had, until his foot fell off. I mean, every weekend we raced the first 5 weekends side by side, and maybe had a tire mark at the end of the night, and it was just you're within an inch of each other racing for a win, right? So you're giving it everything you got, and we never once really touched or wrecked or anything, and that's just. And maybe that's Minnesota nice over here, I guess, but that's just kind of how we race each other. And get out of the car, you might be frustrated if you get second for 5 minutes, but then you go over and have a beer with each other. And, I mean, we probably talk 2-3 times a week during the race season on the phone.
I'm not sure if Jacqueline actually knows that Brent's foot actually did fall off.
Actually, that was going to be my follow-up question was, how is your foot? And tell everybody exactly what happened if they are not familiar with that.
Well, if you don't know what happened, my son races quarter midgets at the little Elko, right next to Caster, right next to Elko Speedway, and he was in second place on the last lap, and he made a super awesome pass for the lead coming out of turn 4, and I jumped up, and my Achilles ripped off my heel, my right foot, and I never saw him finish the race, and I knew what happened right away. It hurt so bad. And I instantly went down to the ground, and I peeked up over the wall to see if he won. And he spun out because his tires got tangled with another driver. He spun out, and his back bumper just made it over the finish line. And I didn't know if he won or not. And he got second.
Dang. It would have been better if you'd hurt yourself and you got the win. But
yeah, it's okay. It's okay. He was upset, but yeah, that hurt. And then we went to the hospital, and 3 days later, I had surgery, and then we raced that next Saturday.
Wow.
With a cast on my foot.
Holy smokes. How is that racing with a cast on your foot?
Terrible. Try getting behind him.
Yeah. So my team, my brother and Tony, they built a platform in front of my gas pedal. And it was about a foot long, and moved my gas pedal forward and moved my seat around so that my leg could rest to the right a little bit. And then I just kind of moved my whole leg back and forth on top of this platform because I couldn't move my foot like this. So I had to move the gas pedal forward, and it was just kind of going like that. And it was the most uncomfortable, stupid thing. And it hurt too. The first like 3 or 4 weeks, it hurt really bad. But yeah, that second race, the second feature, I looked at Nate. I'm like, what? I don't think I can do this. This hurts too bad. But as soon as I went on the track, it felt a little bit better.
Funny how that works.
Right. But yeah, it took a lot of speed out of me. I think we finished 5th for the best, after I hurt my foot.
Is it all healed up now?
No, I'm limping a little bit. I'm not wearing the boot anymore or anything like that. I got my boot, regular boots on. I'm just limping. So getting back to normal.
Is it going to deter you from racing next season or no?
No.
Okay.
No, I think I got one more year in me.
And then are you going to be seat belted down every time Caster races now, or how's that going to work?
I don't know. It's a joke around my family and people at work, like what I'm going to hurt next. So I don't really know what, I'll just do what I do. And then whatever I hurt next, that's it.
Well,
Talk to me. Go ahead.
I think I remember there was the one year that they ran a Thunder Car hobby stock race on Labor Day at Raceway Park, and you got to ring the bell, but your back was hurt at that time too, right? How did you hurt your back then? Because I think they had to lift you out of the car on the straightaway after winning.
So that was can't remember what year. 13? I don't know. But I was at work doing plumbing undergrounds where there's a lot of digging, and I blew 2 discs out of my lower back, and went to the hospital, all that stuff, and I had to use Chad Wallen's body cast plastic thing from when he broke his back because it hurt so bad to stand up, and that helped a lot. But yeah, Nate would put me in the car, lift my legs up and put me in the car, and have to take me out because I couldn't bend my back or like twist to my hips or anything. That particular race, I had, some pills before the race just so I could not feel any pain. And that track's not around anymore, so I can say that. But yeah, I wasn't feeling any pain for about the first 50 laps. And then we had that mandatory caution, and I drank a bunch of water, and I think I took the lead on like 5 laps to go after the pain medication wore off. So that was I remember that race. That was a good, I ran around in last place for most of the race and drove up through the field and actually won it.
Well, I'm
And
thrilled
Dillon,
that you can remember the race. That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Dillon, you kind of had a knack for winning some of the bigger Thunder Car races too. I think, didn't you? You got a couple of them that, like when they had the touring series at Raceway Park, you got 1 or 2 of those.
There was a time when we couldn't win a race to save our lives. We'd finish second every race, and the only races we could win were the big ones. We won the Thunder Car Nationals, the ASA Midwest race at Shakopee, but those were the years that those were probably right when me and Brent were really becoming good friends, and I would stop over to his shop or whatever, and he would answer a million of my questions, and just, every racer's went through it, where you kind of, take your steps, right? And he helped me along the way, and, a big part of where I am today is because of him. He's just given me a lot of advice and maybe a lot of people probably don't know, but I worked for him for 7 years. So he got me into the career I'm in too. So, I owe a lot to my life, from what Brent's done for me over the years.
Thanks.
That's pretty cool. So did you start working for him before you were racing then, or racing first?
No, it was actually that Oktoberfest weekend. It was the Horn weekend. It was a Saturday bar day downtown. And they have this drink down there that's called butt sex. I don't know if you're familiar or not with it, but I think me and Brent had about 4 gallons of it. And we started talking, and he, like I said, that the night before he got destroyed his race car with Horn. And I'm just like, how are you in such a good mood, man? You just destroyed your race car or whatever. And he's whatever, nonchalant about it. It is what it is. And kind of got talking about, how are you going to afford to fix this? How what do you do? And he told me he was a plumber. And at that time, I think I was doing flat roofing. And that's not a fun job. So I was looking for a career choice. I think I was 20 or 21 at the time. And Brent got me into plumbing, and, that was the rest is history, I guess, there.
We'll say you were 21 because you were downtown drinking.
Yeah, I was 21. Yep, it was my birthday.
Good catch, Dan. Good catch.
But you couldn't do any of this without the hard work that you do.
Yeah.
He's extremely hardworking. So.
Well, this is just like a mutual admiration society. I like this. This is good stuff.
It's a bromance.
Not all racers hate each other. Just
well, yeah. And I like that you guys do get along and that you're real upfront with each other. I'm also just going to side note. I love that you guys are involved in the trades. I think that says a lot too for kids listening, maybe even to this, that can maybe ignore the reference to butt sex earlier, but could pay attention to know that you don't necessarily have to go and get yourself saddled with college debt, that you can actually really learn a great trade and make a great living. That's obviously, we're not talking about racing with that, but that does help to fund your racing program. And you even switched from trades, Dillon, which is pretty cool.
Right. No, I started my own business 3 years ago, and he probably didn't want me to leave at the time, but he was always supportive of it, and going through racing. It's, like I said, just we've had a really good friendship over the last 10 years between racing and life in general. And if, like you were saying earlier, if we have an issue, we call each other the next day, and it's hashed out. So not a lot of people can do that, especially in the racing world. There's always a finger pointing somewhere, and we usually can come to an agreement or be done with it at that time.
So Brent, several references now have been made about what a cool tool you are after something has happened and you don't blow up. Have you always been that way? Just calm, cool, and collected? Or is that something that you developed over the years?
Something I developed. I've been racing since I was 8 or 9, 10 years old. I can't remember. quarter midgets, and you race for so many years, and after a while, you just accept what's going to happen on the track. You already know sometimes before it even happens, and then I don't remember how long ago it was, but just the fact that one of the things I always think about is just the fact that I'm thankful that I can even be a part of racing, that I have the ability to race. I have the ability to fix the car. Not too many people get to say they get to do what we get to do. So I always take that into consideration.
I do
Nice.
remember one really cool time when they were running supers weekly at Elko, and everybody was bringing their backup cars. All like, Royals would bring two, and Chad would bring two, Islands would bring two, and you were driving Chad's backup car. And I remember Nate going, he's just going to run a couple laps and pull off. And like halfway through the race, you're up in like 9th place or something. I'm like, thought he was just going to pull off.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I remember that race too, but I was having a lot of fun, and the car was really good. So I radioed back to my spotter. I said, ask Chad if I can stay out. And then I got the word back that I could stay out. And yeah, I finished like one spot behind him.
Yeah.
So I made him some money. But then the next week we tried the same thing, and then I crashed it.
Wah, 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 wah. Yeah,
And I
that's
think
sad.
the first time I met Dillon was my kid was probably like 6 or 7, and Dillon was probably like 15 or 16, and he was racing BMX bikes down Faribault, just down there, throwing his bike in the back of a pickup truck and out there racing BMX. And I recognize the name because the Sellners have been part of racing in the Twin Cities for my whole life. So, and I think it was your first win. You drove your dad's spectator drag car at Raceway Park. Martin DeFries wasn't there, so my I don't know, like 8-year-old kid at the time was the photographer. So we got a little cheesy picture of you and your dad in Victory Lane at Raceway Park in our collection somewhere.
I remember that. That was Labor Day, I think. And
Yep.
I was kind of the opposite end. A lot of kids or people, they start racing and they have success within that first year or two, and it took me a while. I mean, I was into sports and everything growing up, so when it kind of came to racing, it was an afterthought. I didn't really put that much effort into it, and it took a long time to really kind of get any good at it, I guess you could say, before we started being competitive and winning races. And there's a lot of people behind that. I mean, guy that should have been here on this podcast with us, Greg Larson, he's helped us out a ton, and that guy's done a lot of wonders for me over the last couple of years to get us to where we were at, and him too.
I'm a little bummed that Greg didn't come on the podcast.
I called him yesterday. He was making up excuses.
It's one of those two. I think it's rare that you find a picture of Greg too, right? He doesn't go to Victory Lane often. I think if you guys got a picture of him, you probably had to drag him up there to get him into Victory Lane with you.
He does not like that stuff, but there's a lot of people at Elko Speedway that would not be racing, without him. I mean, he's done obviously not just us two, but so many people. That guy has done a ton of work for and helped out and given his free time or whatever. I mean, me and Brent talk 2 times a week. Me and Greg probably do the same, and he's very supportive of both of us too. So
he's fixed a lot of race cars. Pretty much, if you think about it, most of the race cars that went into the wall over the years, Greg's probably fixed those cars.
Dang. Well, I can
for
tell
a fraction
now,
of the price too.
Yeah. If we're going to get Greg on a podcast, it's probably going to have to happen during Oktoberfest from the Dolphin, Dan's headquarters, and with a few barley pops.
I thought we had him set at Saturday Oktoberfest. He was all in, but I think he might have had a couple Coors Lights in him too.
I think he was all in at that point. But yeah. Or maybe we could just record it like downtown.
Oh, that might be fun.
I don't think the recorder needs to be brought downtown Saturday.
That could be fun.
This is going to be on here forever.
Yeah.
Oh, shoot. What's that like for you, Brent, though, with your son starting to race and Does he listen when you give him advice? And how does that whole dynamic work?
So it's working out exactly as I'd hoped it would. Um, the first step was hoping that my kid wanted to race and wanted to do this. And as soon as he said yes, and he watched me from the time he was born until 4 years old, and I said, "Do you want to race a car?" Well, of course. He said yes, and I'm like, "Okay, cool." And so I got him a car, and the next step is I bought him the car in the wintertime, so I had to wait months until he could actually drive it. So uh, when he finally got in the car and drove it, it was obvious that he had some of my blood in him, and that made me smile. And the emotions that go with that, it's better than any race I've ever won. Just watching my little guy turn the wheel and step on the gas I can't describe it. And then getting him or having him win a race, I mean, that is just, I can't describe that. That's so cool. And he's only been racing 2 years. So there's hopefully a long time for him to race and through the different divisions and stuff.
We've talked before at length about what a great core group right now is running at that quarter midget track up there.
It is really unbelievable. The who's who of racing, their kids are racing there, including Dillon's soon.
We got a couple years left.
So, yeah, the quality of racers, and the kids that are driving these cars like the way they do, I can't believe how good they are.
That's cool. Yeah, Dillon, how old are your kids?
I have a 5-year-old girl, and she loves racing, but she's not. She has told me she doesn't want to race because she likes gymnastics and all that stuff. But I have a 2-year-old boy, and I can't mow my yard. I can't load the car. I can't drive my truck out of my driveway without him being in the seat. So he'll be the next one up there. But he's only 2, so you got a couple years to wait.
Mm-hmm.
But those my kid, I mean, just like I was talking to somebody about this at lacrosse this couple weeks ago, and I was just like, when you have kids and they get into the racing with you, and it makes it so much more fun. And you don't take it as seriously, maybe. You're just having fun with your kids, and I think that part of my success for sure is, obviously I got to start with this. I might have forgot championship night to thank my wife during our interview, so I want to say how awesome my wife is, and anybody that has kids at a racetrack and their wife has to take care of them knows just how hard that really is. And she does that every weekend. And without her, I would not be nearly as successful in life in general. So I just want to say thank you to her. But, our kids, they clean the car every week and they make it just fun now. You're not so focused on that because you're having fun with your kids. And I'm sure he can attest to that too.
Absolutely. The whole family is into racing, right. And we're very lucky.
We both have very good wives and kids that support us, and to support them back. And when you give them a trophy at the end of the night, you don't care as much about winning anymore, maybe, but giving them a trophy is what it's all about.
Yep. Having our kids eat cereal out of our trophies.
Every racetrack should have a cup for a trophy, because when your kids I have abundance of pictures of my kids eating cereal out of trophies, and I think there's probably a couple on the shelf that stink because I forgot to clean them up, but it is just the best thing in the world on Sundays.
All of my trophies have beer residue in them.
See, do you wash them out before you let the kids
eat
cereal? Because there's usually some booze in there.
Before Castro was born, it was booze. Now it's cereal.
Right. That's how life changes quick.
Right.
Yeah.
Dan, did you have a question for them about the little Elko?
No, I was going to say, I've mentioned several times before on here with various people how, it was probably maybe 6 years ago I was down there, and there was like 8 or 10 people, and this year it's been closer to 50, which is just, phenomenal and really good for the whole sport, because that means there's going to be more people coming up and hopefully going over to the big track. So it's really cool to see. And I mean, when I went down there, the concession stand wasn't open, and it was just you went and watched the 8 kids race. Now you guys got food going on and food trucks showing up, and it's really cool. And Dillon, I mean, the way kids get into super lates these days, a 2-year-old could probably get into a quarter midget. I'm thinking that'd probably be okay.
I think we'll pull the plug on that idea right away. But like he was saying, I remember actually talking to Danny Fredrickson about this right before Ty started racing, getting into late models and stuff. And and Danny was talking about something about his own race car, and he was kind of focused on Ty's quarter midget stuff. And I said, I guarantee you're gonna have more fun when Ty starts racing than you do when you race. And he kind of hemmed and hawed. And now you ask any of these guys, including him, and I just asked him a few weeks ago, and he said, you were right. It's amazing what happens when your kids get old and older and you start watching them do what they love to do.
Yeah. When I'm driving that car, I'm just I could fall asleep sometimes.
Right.
Like I fall asleep in the lineup and I drive it, I go on the track, me and you are waving at each other, whatever. Totally relaxed in the car. On Sundays, watching Castro go on the track, my heart is pounding through my chest. I'm like hyperventilating. My blood is just flowing. It's so exciting. So
my dad is like 67 years old, and every time we win a race, he still climbs the fence to the very top.
Yeah.
And sometimes I just gotta park my car and say, all right, just calm down. But I'm sure that's the feeling every one of these guys gets, and hopefully someday me too.
Yeah. I mean, I totally get it, because I mean, I didn't race, but when I was before I started kart racing and my kid was kart racing, I told the story at his wedding how they had me flagging, and I was in the flag stand and had the radio on, and Mandy, the race director, he's leading, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm all nervous. I just want to grab the checkered flag on like lap 2 or whatever. And then on the last lap, she's like, grab the checkered flag coming out of the last corner is your boy, and he came by, and I got to wave the checkered flag from the flag stand for his first kart win. And that was pretty damn cool.
That would be cool.
Cool. That's awesome. I never knew that story, Dan. That's great.
It was fun.
Yeah.
Have you ever torn your Achilles?
I have. Well, I did start drinking Keystone Light.
Oh, come on.
No way.
I want everybody to see this, because anybody that knows Brent knows that he drinks Keystone, and I give him crap every time. But he brought me a Busch Light out of his own fridge. It's probably like 7 years old, but I'm baffled.
So the Busch Lights from my friend that drives me home every day because I can't drive. Well, now I can, but he must like me too much because he keeps driving me home every day.
That's because you have good beer.
So I got some Busch Light on the bottom shelf for my friend John Murphy.
Nice. Good stuff. You guys have probably had some really great sponsors. Obviously, we talked a little bit about Greg Larson, but you all have had some really great backing too over the years. Talk a little bit about how important those relationships are to be able to propel forward and maybe even tap into for your kids as they continue their career.
Oh man, I don't even know where to start. You can't just get into this sport unless you have a lot of money, which I did not when we were getting in the sport. But backing, I mean, you have to have a frame guy. You have to have a guy that teaches you all this stuff. And my dad did a lot of that stuff. I mean, obviously he got me into racing. He taught me how to do body work. He taught me how to do, build a car and stuff like that. But I mean, you name it, you have to have a suspension guy that you can trust that can teach you certain things, but mainly you got to figure that out yourself as you get, more and more into it, because your car drives maybe a different setup for a different guy, you have to get good sponsors, and I've had amazing sponsors through my career. Like I can't even thank them enough. I mean, they're the only reason why I still race. Chime in if you want.
Yeah, I mean, you hit it on the nuts. I mean, you got to have loyalty to everybody, and
you have to have a crew.
The crew, yeah. I mean, that's the biggest. We talk all the time these days, and it's like, when you were 18, 25 years ago, you could go buy a beat up bomber car and go race for a couple $100. Well, how can an 18-year-old kid do it anymore on their own? You got to have the sponsors. These, even just for the lower divisions, you got to have the sponsors to help you afford to buy a set of tires, a pit pass, whatever it is. And then you got to have the help. You can't do this by yourselves. You got to have the help to work on your stuff every week when you're at the track. And, I'm very lucky to have a lot of loyal people in our lives, motors,
Get out of here,
transmissions, rear ends, all that stuff that you build those relationships over the years, and you got to have that stuff, especially these days.
Engine builders, huge. I've had amazing engine builders throughout my career. Same with Dillon.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't afford to blow up an engine every year. You can't afford to blow one up every 5 years. And the power that these engine builders are putting out these days, and they're lasting multiple years. I mean, I remember going to the races when I was a kid, and there was an engine blowing up every week. So hats off to the engine builders. You got to have a tranny guy that knows what he's doing, a rear end guy that knows what he's doing. Just you name it. I mean, you through the years you pick up on these guys and you trust, and then back to the crew again. Like they're your family. You're with them more than your own family. Paying for racing. I mean, my uncles and aunts and moms and dads, just everyone just chips in, and you name it. If I know anyone that owns a business, I'm asking them for money. And it's nonstop. It's been doing it for years like that.
So what's it like trying to show these ropes to the kids? And what's your plan, Dillon, as your kid gets older, as you start to try to teach this kind of stuff?
I mean, I think it's you got to have somebody to look up to, I guess, in a sense, to teach, to show you how this stuff works. Because if you try to go into it without any knowledge, you're lost already. Just me and Greg Larson talk all the time about the extra 20% or the last 20%, and it's something we've talked about for like the last 3 years. And he's like, you as a driver and you as your car are only 80% of it. It's the 20% that you do in the garage that nobody sees. It's the small bolt changes. If you make a shock change or a spring change, did you recheck everything? Did you recheck your ride heights? Did you recheck your scales? Did you recheck your bump steer? Did you recheck your toe? I mean, it's all that little stuff that it doesn't sound like it makes a difference, but you can ask. I'm sure you see it with your husband. How all that little stuff is what is the difference between winning a race and finishing 10th.
I will say another thing though is mindset.
Right.
And that was something I also wanted to chat with you guys about, was the mindset, because that is kind of that it factor that can make or break any night. I mean, you can feel like the wheels are falling off the bus, but your mindset could actually help turn that around.
It's confidence.
I've never actually told anybody this, but sometimes when I'm in my car, I shut my eyes and picture myself going through the field, and that I think that actually helps me, especially with my foot, because I knew right away when the first time I practiced, I was about almost a second slow, and mindset that actually plays a role in it. So you have to be confident, and I don't know. I agree with you.
Yeah.
I mean, I think confidence is, so I don't know if Dan's ever told you, but my whole family has raced it. The Tumas, the Merricks, the Jorgensens. Well, when you're at Thanksgiving and Christmas and you got your Uncle Conrad Jorgensen, your cousin Chris Merrick, your Uncle Mike Tuma, all these people, Nate Kane's there, all these people that have trophy shelves galore, and you don't have anything. You kind of feel like the black sheep, but you don't have the confidence. Well, this goes back to, I know I keep repeating his name, but Greg Larson installed some confidence into me a couple years ago, and I think that is huge. You got to believe that you can do it, because if you show up to the track and say, that guy's better than me, I can't beat him, you've lost already. And so I think that's just teaching the younger generation that believe that you can do it, because if you just look at some guy and say, well, that guy's won 100 races, how can I ever beat him? You've already lost. And so, I mean, now you show up to the racetrack and you say, I can beat these guys. Why can't I? And I think that's a huge, and I think if you look at every guy that wins races in every division, from NASCAR Cup down to your local Hornets, I guarantee the guy that's winning might not be arrogant or cocky, but I bet he walks around a little taller than everybody else. And I truly believe that that's a big part of winning races versus losing.
Yeah. So taking that another step further, because I know this is a fact that there are times though in racing where even though you've had that confidence, sometimes it gets a little rattled, sometimes it shakes a little bit. How do you get that confidence back after you've had a setback?
Marty Gallagher.
Perfect.
I mean,
Marty.
honestly, Marty Gallagher, he's been great friends with both of us for years. You know, he used to help Brent, and Brent kind of took a couple years off, so he came and helped us, and he's still great friends with both of us. But I remember this year actually at Oktoberfest, we qualified second after the whole week. We were just lights out fast, and we qualified second, and I was pretty pissed off at myself. And he came in the trailer and he goes, "What's wrong?" And I said, "I don't know. We didn't set fast time. I really wanted to do that." He goes, "Are we here to have fun or are we taking this serious? Because if we're taking this serious, I'm going up to the stands." And sometimes it's just those little comments, but it's having those people backing you up that just get your head out of that muck. Because sometimes you get in that muck and you kind of get in a little funk. So you just got to have the right people around you that keep you focused, I guess.
Yeah.
Mine is my brother. No matter how, if I'm slow or anything, he'll just say, "Don't worry about it. You're the best." I'm like, man, that's cool. So
Not many
mine's my brother.
Not many brothers have their brother's car number tattooed on their arm either.
Yeah, I know.
Wow.
It's a Kane thing. They're weird.
Yeah, we're weird.
I'm just grateful it's on the arm. So,
Yeah.
Well, there might be one on the butt, but he hasn't shown that on anybody.
No. There's an 07 there.
Marty is good stuff too. But gotten to spend a lot more time with him this year doing those Cedar Lake shows. And one night we drove out. He came up to my house. I drove out Cedar Lake like on a Wednesday night and just listening to him for an hour. The story, I mean, like 3 years ago, Derek Crouse, we're standing in line to cross the track at Oktoberfest, and Derek Crouse comes up, "Hey, Party Marty." I'm like, does everybody know Marty Gallagher?
Yeah, everyone.
He'll talk to you. He'll be your best friend.
And he knows everyone.
And he knows everybody.
And their stats.
Yeah.
He's
even if you don't race, he knows your stats.
That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. He is a good guy. I don't know him probably as closely as you all do, but I do know him, and I have seen him in action on the microphone or heard him in action, and I do see him moving around the pits, and it's kind of cool that he is involved in a bunch of different facets in auto racing. I think that's excellent. I think we have a lot of people like him who are kind of quietly behind the scenes and doing a lot of really cool things.
He's a good guy to have in your pits because if you need a part from someone, he knows everybody. So he'll find you a part.
Yep.
Nice. So what are your guys' plans going forward? I mean, what's 2024 going to look like? What's going to be happening for each of you?
Well, I'm going to put a new body on my car after the Demolition Derby 500 at Oktoberfest that we went through a couple weeks ago. And then I've been thinking at least one more year. Next year will be 25 years. So
wow,
it's time to start thinking like, really, what am I going to do here? I've been racing Thunder cars for 25 years. So
he's old.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to race late models with somebody else, but for sure next year, Thunder cars, one more year. And then Castor is racing Bandoleros. Just bought him a new Bandolero car, and he's going to be racing quarter midgets on Sundays. So it's racing season every single day of the week around here.
I don't think you would want it any other way.
You'll have to add like breaking news to the bottom of the next podcast with the Bandolero announcement. You got the scoop, Jacqueline.
How about that? How about that? What about you, Dillon? What's coming up for you next year?
I think I got to kind of cut back on racing next year. Me and my wife bought some land last summer, so we are building a house and hopefully breaking ground right away in spring. And so between owning a business and building a house, it's going to be a hectic, but we got some plans in the works to maybe race a late model next year and a big 8 style one, and just kind of get a notebook started, not race every weekend probably, but I put my Thunder car up for sale, and I'm selfishly, secretly hoping it doesn't sell because I'd really like to. That car is it's a blast racing these cars. I mean, these cars are fun. There's only so much you can do to them before you're maxed out, and I think that's what makes these cars so fun to race.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes in late models, I think people can overthink themselves right out of the game, especially I mean, big 8s are one thing, and super lights obviously you can really overthink yourself, but I really enjoy racing these cars, so if I still have that car, we'd probably bring it out for some of the special nights and maybe lacrosse or something. But it'll probably just be kind of whenever we can get out there next year, and then kind of hit the ground running the following year once we get all of life done next summer, hopefully.
Well, I've heard you're good at specials, so that sounds like a solid plan.
There you go.
Nice. Dan, do you have any other questions for the boys?
No other questions, but I have to say every time I go to Elko, those are two of the pits I stop by is the Kane and Sellner ones, and we'll talk, but there's always some laughter every time I go through the pits. They're never too serious when I stop by, so that's always fun to experience.
Gotta have fun doing this, or what's the point?
Yep.
Amen to that. Amen to that. And I enjoyed having a few cocktails with you all during Oktoberfest as well too. So good luck to y'all next year, and don't get hurt watching any of the kids race again.
Yeah. Don't get hurt watching the kids race.
He's old.
Got it.
Thanks for joining us, guys. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. This was fun.
I told you it'd be fun.